Well, hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to a very special episode of both the Gwladys podcast and the Shankly Gates podcast. For those of you that haven't watched before, up at the top, no unconscious bias here. We've got Callum, Nick, and Dawn from the Gwladys podcast, and at the bottom here, Kieran, me, David, and Dan. So we're just obviously going to look ahead to the Merseyside Derby coming up at the weekend. It's, I suppose you could say, it's a bit less important, if you like, after the runs that the recent both teams have been on, after top four hopes are slipping away from both of us. But we'll get into all that and plenty more, and I'm sure we'll have a bit of a laugh going forward. So first of all, let's start with the Everton lot, because they've been winding me up, but it might be it might be biased, and start with Liverpool. So how are we looking then? I'll start with you, Nick. What's the mood like in the camp in Everton right now going into this one?
I think, to be honest, Dave, it's a little apprehensive after a couple of poor results at home. The Fulham game still wrangles with us. You looked at the City game, and 9 times out of 10, it's normally a free hit because you're not that bothered about it, because you sort of accept that one's gone. But the defeats to Fulham and some of the other stuff that's cost Everton a number of points that would have kept us in the top 4. I think there's a lot of apprehension. I mean, we'll go into it a little bit later, but obviously a trip to Anfield brings that because of the historical value attached to it. But I think everyone's hoping that something's going to happen, but not quite sure, seeing where it's going to come from at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dawn, we talk about the form going into this one, but form goes out the window in a derby, doesn't it?
It sure does, yeah. Even like going back over, X number of seasons when we've been on top form and yous have been struggling. Obviously, I'm not talking about last season. You get to the derby and it doesn't matter. And we've obviously, in those games, it's been like the 4-0 hidings that we've got, sort of even going in against the kids last season. You'd expect to get something out of that, and we didn't either. It's a monkey we definitely need to get off our back, even if it's like, goes in off someone's ear. We need to beat Liverpool at Anfield, and we need to win a derby, and it needs to happen soon.
Yeah, I mean, I often wonder as a Liverpool fan how long it can go on for, without winning at Anfield. But Callum, in terms of pressure, mate, I mean, both teams have been pretty awful recently, maybe more so Liverpool. And, as we said at the top 4 is kind of slipping away from both. Does that relieve pressure for Everton in any way going into this one?
No, not for me. And I think Everton fans are very patient. I think we all know that. We're well acclaimed for that. And I feel like, I don't think anyone's going to be calling for the manager's head or anything like that. And personally, I'm not. But I think the pressure will build on the team if they don't get a result on Saturday. We haven't got to win in 5. And I feel like sense says this is the best opportunity to go and get a result at Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool's current team selection and what they can pick from is quite limited at the back. You obviously don't have the Anfield crowd, which it is a big factor to go and play Liverpool in an empty stadium. So there's no better opportunity to go to Anfield and get a result, really, for me, with that in mind.
I've felt like that for a couple of years now. I think Everton have been creeping closer and closer to getting a result at Anfield. Dan, is this the year that it happens?
I think, like Callum touched upon there, if there was going to be a year it happened, it looks like this, really. Not just our team selection being so hindered and our form being so poor, but the fans are a massive factor in games like this. I've said it since the start of the season. I think if Liverpool were going to lose at home, it was going to be while it was empty. And if we're going to lose a derby, it's probably the same. But I'm still confident you've got to be, haven't you? But if it's going to happen, it's going to be on Saturday.
Yeah. Kieran, how are you feeling ahead of this one, mate? Are you more nervous than usual?
No, not really, but I would probably echo the thoughts that have been said. I mean, if it's going to come, I just looking at it statistically, it's probably now. I mean, you wouldn't have thought it, but Liverpool have not won a home game in 2 months. So that's just that's just a bit unheard of. So, yeah, empty stadium, the fans not been there. I think that's a massive hindrance for us, certainly. So I'm not too sure what to make of this weekend. I just, hopefully we can just, however it happens, we can, get over that line and get the 3 points.
Where's he gone?
Am I back? I don't know if I'm back or not.
You're back.
I got very worried then.
Yeah, very pause that there at the end to emphasise.
Yeah,
I
that was a
don't know
bit
what's
long,
going on
dramatic
again.
pause.
Do you know what? I just decided that I don't fancy this game at the weekend, so I'm just going to get off instead.
Bottled
I've
it.
heard enough.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I bottled it. Pretty much like Liverpool. I've bottled it since January. But let's talk about that form, Dan. Obviously, it's been horrendous, hasn't it? And, you know, does that we say form goes out the window, but is that a good thing for Liverpool at the moment?
Yes and no. Like, obviously, our immediate form's a lot better because we played really well in midweek. But, yeah, the form has been really poor. But, like you touched upon, so is Everton. So, form does go out the window, in essence, in a derby. Again, for all the reasons we've illustrated, less so this time round because, again, the fans are a massive part of the derby these days. We're not talking 11 Scousers against 11 Scousers of British anymore. You know, they're from all over the place. So there's not much of a derby feel to this one, probably less so than normal. So it's a difficult one in terms of form. But the midweek results obviously give me a lot more confidence than I had previously.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to stand on that one because I think Kieran mentioned it last week. You don't know who's going to turn up and what Liverpool's going to turn up. Callum, in terms of Everton, are they going to be smelling blood now with Liverpool obviously in a bit of a bad run? Are they going to be smelling blood?
It's an hard one. I think we actually played fairly well last night and obviously got beat by what was the better team, but I can't see it. I mean, what I've been thinking is on the flip side, if you look at going into the game at Goodison early on in the year, and I think Everton and Liverpool were, 1-2 or 1-3? And it was a really good game between two confident teams. I just think I think both teams are going to be really quite anxious the first 45 minutes. So, no, not really, is my honest answer, mate. I think it's going to be quite a nervy game first half, and I think it's just who can go and grab it.
He's gone again.
He really doesn't fancy it, does he?
No, he doesn't. No. What does everybody else think? I mean, I'm of the same opinion. I listening and not disagreeing with anybody else around sort of the context of it. I think for me, there's distinctly moving forward. Liverpool have got the better players and look likely to score goals. Everton have been defending quite well. So I do think my gut reaction is certainly the first 45 minutes, as Cal said, could be quite a cagey event and depends sort of who pushes it harder. And you know, I didn't see the Leipzig game, but that looked a reasonable result. That must give you some confidence.
Well, yeah, for me, yeah, the game was similar to Leicester, really. I thought the performance was similar to the Leicester game, just a drastic different result. We didn't have the last 10 minutes where we just imploded. But yeah. I think I'm looking from the home games that we haven't won. You know, the two games that we lost. Well, you can accept the City one. You know, they're the best side of the league. They're going to go on to win the league. But the way Burnley and Brighton played, the way they're going to sit behind the ball, be compact, and just try and get that, defend properly, get that clean sheet, and try and get a goal. For me, I'm just wondering how Everton are going to play it. Are they going to try and play a similar way, try and be compact and hit on the break, or try and potentially take it to us against a team that, like you say, we've not won a home in 2 months, so confidence might not be there.
No, I think I don't see it. I think Everton's best success has been on the road, but it's been with a strict formula, hasn't it, Cal?
Yeah. I think we're going to go there to frustrate you, pretty similar to what Burnley and Brighton are going to do. Liverpool will probably have most of the ball, and I can't see us going toe to toe with leaving any risk, leaving 3-on-3 like Leipzig were doing on Wednesday, was it? Tuesday, sorry. We're not going to do that. We're going to sit in a low block. I think we'll offer a bit more of a counter than we did last night against City, but yeah, I think we're going to be pretty similar to Burnley and Brighton, and I think we're going to sit in a low block and try and counter with probably what is better players than what Burnley and Brighton have got to counter you against with. Dawn, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's. I agree. That's how I think we'll play as well. I think for us, it depends one who he picks to start. If Alan's fit, if DCL's fit, and two, what kinds of Everton turns up, because obviously against Fulham, no one turns up. It's not like we played bad; they just didn't turn up to play in the first place. And last night, I thought, we did all right and we battled. So yeah, I think we'll play in the low block. We'll try and keep it tight and try and do on the counter attack. But ideally, we've got DCL to do that.
I think just on last night before we move on, I think that's got to give us a little bit of confidence. Like, up to 65 minutes, it was 1-1, and City didn't really look for all the possession like they were going to cut us open until it was a worldy little move and a nice strike by Mahrez. And I think going into the Liverpool game, there's no better team to play than Man City because you've got to already switch on your game plans on their fullbacks and the movement. So it should put us in good stead to go on and play Liverpool and deal with their fullbacks and Trent and Robbo and whatnot moving on. So I think we've had some good preparation for the game, like on Saturday.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's probably the perfect game to sort of warm up for the derby. City obviously dominate possession. Liverpool maybe not so much. But yeah, definitely. But you're talking about Calvert-Lewin there and whether he's going to play or not.
Yeah.
I think if he does play, I think he's just got to pick on Trent Alexander-Arnold at this point. I don't know what you think, but Trent's been a bit of a weak link defensively for a while, and I think if you just throw Calvert-Lewin on there, I think that's where Everton might have much choice. Do you agree with that?
I put him on Kabak.
Yeah, I think he's going to bully both centre-halves, to be honest. He's a big physical unit. Like, I think he'll stay central, and then anything we can get off Trent, I think Richarlison's probably strong enough to play on Trent, to be honest. So I think he'll stay fairly central. The ball's not stuck as much as what it would with Calvert-Lewin. So that's a big plus that for us if he plays.
Yeah, I think the Kabak thing, against Leicester, Vardy got in a few times because of him. Obviously, the incident with Alisson and the last goal for Harvey Barnes. If he goes to ground there, that ball doesn't go in the back of the net. So if he's playing centre half for you, I would definitely sit on him for Calvert-Lewin, definitely.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed by Kabak at all. He just looks quite slow and quite. I mean, obviously he's a kid; he might get better, but he doesn't look up to it to me. Dan, are you worried about that?
Yeah, I'm worried about our centre halves across the board, really, and that's no sly on Kabak or Henderson, to be honest with you, because neither of them should be playing there in theory. Henderson in particular should be in midfield, as we well know, and Kabak should probably be watching on from the bench while Gomez and Van Dijk play, but that's not happening. So yeah, it is a worry. Of course it is. I thought Kabak did okay in midweek. In a quite frantic game against Leipzig, they came on to us quite a lot, to be honest with you, and I thought he did all right. But yeah, it is a worry, especially if Calvert-Lewin plays, because he is a big physical unit, like they've touched upon. I'd back Henderson to deal with him. I thought Henderson dealt with Harry Kane really well the other week, who is of a similar ilk. So yeah, it's a worry, but we've got to be confident. I think our attacking threat might stop Everton playing, and that's a big thing for me. They might be so worried about us going forward, they don't really impose themselves on the game. That is a potential way we could nick it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have agreed with that probably before the Leipzig game. But I think Leipzig maybe overcompensated and thought Liverpool aren't doing too well. So we'll just have a go at them. And I think Callum mentioned they were just leaving themselves open to attack, and Everton certainly won't do that. They're not stupid. Not many teams are, to be fair, to do that to Liverpool.
Not with Ancelotti as well. He's quite pragmatic, isn't he, generally? Italians are.
He knows what he's doing, doesn't he? He sets up well. In terms of team selection, go on, Dawn. You want to say something there?
I think most teams know, don't they? Shut the fullbacks down. Shut the service down from both fullbacks, and the forwards have to come looking for the ball a bit more. So I think, like in the last couple of games we played against Liverpool, we've done better because obviously Ancelotti's in charge. So again, it depends who turns up on the day for us.
And Liverpool as well, to be fair. It all depends on who fancies it and who doesn't. In terms of other team selection news, then, have we covered everything with Everton and Liverpool there?
We pondered a little bit. I think obviously for us, you're right. The big key is certainly getting Calvert-Lewin back. And they're talking about Allen being fit and able to play, but do you throw somebody who's had nearly 2 months more out into a derby game, or do you stick with your Davises and such? So from Everton's perspective, I don't think there's a great deal of option to play around with. I'm not sure I'd throw Allen in, but saying that, our midfield has been somewhere where I think Liverpool can potentially overrun us a little bit. And as Dan was saying before, I think certainly moving forward, there is that little bit of class. Salah has got that bit of class. You give him half a chance to score. He proved that with the second goal in the derby up at our place. It was literally just one strike and a nowhere. And the goal at Leicester, the flick from Firmino and the strike by Salah was great. So Everton have got to be very wary of that, whereby, we've played Leeds, given them chances and they've missed it because of their inexperience. I'm not sure we can give Liverpool chances and get away with it. So we have to get our balance right.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
say those just one mate on the team selection. For us, if Henderson, or for me personally, if Henderson does play at the back, I feel like that's a big bonus for Everton. I feel like he leads your press really well. He's a leader in there, so I think he leads the press quite well in midfield. He's really influential, strong, reads the game quite well, and I feel like he switches the ball well as well. So I think there's less switches to play if he's not in there. I don't know what your press will be like if he's not in there. I can't see it being as good or as well led without Henderson in there. I mean, you guys will know more than me, but that's just my opinion with him not playing there and playing centre-back. I think it's a positive for us.
It's a very valid point, mate. Go on, Kieran.
We're much better with Henderson in the team. I mean, certainly in that midfield, we would. People might not think it, but I think one of the major reasons why we won the title last season was Jordan Henderson in the midfield. Just what he does in that team is fantastic. I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't expect it, but he's been, to be honest, sensational at centre-back for someone who's probably never played there in his life. So, it will be an advantage for Everton that he is at the back, because, like I say, he's much better in that midfield.
Yeah, I'd extend what you were saying there, Cal, about Henderson to Fabinho as well, to be honest. I think Liverpool miss him massively in defensive midfield in terms of pressing and things like that. And he's certainly like almost the next line before it gets to the defence, and I think that's where it's missing out. And to be fair, that kind of is where Everton are missing Alan, isn't it? In midfield, where he can break things up and get the ball back for you and get it forward to the likes of Rodriguez. Would you agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I've said sort of in a couple of shows that we've done, for me, Alan's sort of, from my era, a Peter Reid type player. He still will do the dirty little fouls, the little niggles. He'll do the closing down. So as well as he drives forward and takes the ball forward, he does all that horrible stuff. Now, again, as an old bloke, I don't think you can make more than 2 tackles without getting a yellow card now, which is shameful, but that's the way of the world. But I do like the fact he's brought a little bit of nastiness into our midfield, which we've not had for a couple of years. We've been too nice and we've been overrun, which has been half the reason we've not been getting the results that we deserve. So he has made a difference. It's like I was saying before, though, it's I suppose only Carlo knows how fit he is to throw him into a derby.
I would disagree with you there, Nick.
Okay.
I think he's just going to offer us that little bit more than what our current midfield is, or maybe a type of Andre Gomez. As David and yourself have said, he can break the play up. Plus, he can drive out with the ball and really start to counter-attack for us, and he's got a good range of passing. So for me, I'd go in Davis, and Decore is maybe just in front of them, because again, I think it's all about the counter for Everton, so I will play Decore a little bit higher, and I think for me, Rodriguez misses out on Saturday. I don't know if that would be a plus that Liverpool would want to see, but I don't know what you think on that, Dawn.
I agree. I think while we've been missing Alan, I know like Tom Davis has been one of our blue boys for a while, but he's developed into that role in the past 3 or 4 games. He's been, I wouldn't say he's been outstanding, but he's been much better. You look against United, he had Fernandes quite quiet. He kept giving little niggly fouls against them, getting away with them, and now and again he wins as a foul against the run of play. He's breaking up play and he's obviously moving the ball forward because he got an assist for the goal. But for me, if Alan's available, obviously the stepping up the training in the background he plays. And again, I'd set up the midfield exactly as you would with Alan and Tom Davis with Corey, more of a free role to get up and down because he's been outstanding for us as well.
Yeah. So the 3 is then just talk us Liverpool fans through what we should expect in terms of team selection from Everton this weekend. What formation are we going for, and what 11?
God knows.
I'll be the tactical genius of this team.
Who's in goal? Who's starting in goal?
Oh, Pickford, hopefully not.
Yeah.
I mean, not the best with Pickford this year, but Olsen's something else. Bloody hell.
Is he that bad, really?
Yeah, against Tottenham, the 3 goals came from corners. They literally just put it on his toes. Didn't want to move off his line, and they looked like scoring every time they got a corner. So I think now that's happened in one game. Everyone's going to be picking on it when he plays. So yeah, I think we'll play a 4-2-3-1. as we say, and it won't be as like a centre attack and mid in your FIFA terms. I don't think our third midfield will be that high up. I think they'll just be a little bit higher than the two central who will probably anchor in front of the defence. So, yeah, you're looking at a type of 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. And I don't know, only Mr. Ancelotti can tell you. I personally wouldn't play James, but I feel like he will, especially with him being on a bench against City. I think Iwobi will be the one to miss out.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised to see James not make the cut, if I'm honest, and that's again from you know a lot more than me, but he seems to have something a little bit special to break you through and get you through the Liverpool, on the counter attack or whatever it might be. Are you going to stick with 4 centre backs in defence? You think, Dawn?
There's only 3 available. I don't think Mina's available. Got injured.
Okay, so there's the answer. No.
Yeah. It's whether Dean moves into midfield or he starts at left back, whether Seamus starts. The thing about Hammer is where you say that he brings something special, he does, and he does if he's on his game and he gets the time. I found in the past few games that he needs that extra touch when he shouldn't, and then he loses the ball. But defensively, we carry him, and he started the season great, but in the past 4 or 5 games, apart from an odd touch of genius, he's not in the game enough for me. I'm not sure what you think, Nick.
No, I it's difficult. The guy is probably the most classiest player we've had on our football club for a long time, and on his day he is. But on his day, like a lot of touch class players, he can be not in the game as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm probably more with Callum. I think I'd probably leave him out, and certainly for the start of the game, go with a more aggressive nature of a side, and then he can always come on when there's a bit more space, there's a bit more gaps to play the ball into. He's probably better coming on at maybe 60 minutes and trying to make a bit of a difference there. So I'm broadly considered with Callum. I mean, he's right with Olsen. He's the old school Dracula who was scared of crosses. I mean, good shot stop, but he was, it was a nightmare against Tottenham. But then you throw the other side, and I saw people call him Pickford biscuit wrists because he didn't save the third one the other night. So it's as long as it's short with the keeper situation. But yeah, it's interesting. What about you guys from the red side? What do you see the team looking like?
Well, I think the first thing we need to touch on, Dan, is Alisson going to play?
Well, this is the concern. Just every week with us and injuries, isn't it, at the minute? Well, he hasn't trained today by the looks of it. So it's a major concern because you look at Kelleher and go, okay, then Kelleher's done well, but he's obviously out with a knock. So then, unfortunately, you look at Adrian, and that just terrifies me. So who knows? Hopefully, but that's the big one. If he plays, we're hands tied a little bit in terms of selection at the minute because the 11 picks itself, really, unless we do something mad like play Origi. But yeah, Alisson,
no.
I hope so.
No. Let's not say things like that.
No.
Let's
he
not go
scores every game against us. He turns into...
Do you know what?
He's terrible.
He's got a point, though. I think there was a period after the Pickford era where Klopp picked them for every derby. I think it must have been just to get in people's heads.
He picks mad teams for derby sometimes, like Shaqiri and Origi that time in the league, and we battered them, don't get me wrong, but he does pick mad teams.
Yeah.
He's cheeky. He takes the piss. He thinks, what can we do with this time? And he'll just test it.
Thanks, Cal. That's sort of for me to bleep tomorrow. Do you know what? To be fair, it is 9 o'clock. So
yeah, it's just got 9.
I do apologise, but in the UK, you should know better. It's 9 o'clock. The watershed's got. Apologies.
It is a footballing term at the end of the day, Dave.
It is. To be fair, I can't argue with that. Kieran, are you with Dan there that the team pretty much picks itself? I mean, obviously, you kind of know what you're going to get from the back 4. You kind of know what you're going to get in the front 3. Is it just midfield maybe where you might see a couple of changes if possible?
If possible, yeah, but I don't think it'll change much from the midweek team or the game against Leicester at the weekend. I think it'll be obviously the only way Klopp knows how to play the 4-3-3. But that midfield for me, it'll be Wijnaldum, Thiago, and Curtis Jones. So I just hopefully they've using the decent performances, obviously bad result against Leicester, but use them performances to come together in this one. But obviously, I don't think we've started a home derby with Mane, Firmino, and Salah. first time we started them 3 against Everton was the away fixture this season.
You've been looking at the comment section. Our good friend Paul Jones has just said exactly that in the comment section. There it is. Up until the
I haven't looked at that.
Mane, Salah, and Firmino never played together in a derby. If you got him on little, a little wire in your ear, there telling him wave like that. Evening, by the way, Paul.
Yeah, so for me, I think that the key of the front three is Salah. He's been the one out of the three that's been, certainly the last few games, he's been the one that's been on form. There was a couple of goals against United in the Cup that finished against Leicester last week, finishing midweek as well. So for me, if you're looking at a key man for us, it's going to be Mo.
Yeah, I'll be honest, right? I'm very surprised he's still top scorer in the Premier League, considering how sort of average Liverpool have been. He's 17 goals in the Premier League. He's 4 clear of, I don't know, a few players have got 13. And that surprises me, if I'm completely honest with you, because I don't think, as I say, we all know Liverpool have not been at their best. Potentially Liverpool haven't been at their best since we came back from lockdown the first time and started playing again. But yeah, that surprises me. But yeah, he probably is the key man. Let's get into the game itself then. I know we've kind of touched on it with, formations and what we expect. But from an Everton point of view, I'll throw this out to any one of you that wants to dive in. How are we going to expect Everton? What's the game plan to win this game?
I think it's... Go on, Dawn, if you want it. Yeah.
No, go on, Nick.
There's a senior laugh.
I should have put a name on it. I do apologise.
Yeah, that's a bit like our defending. Sometimes it's just bobbling aimlessly in the box.
Leave it to everyone else.
Yeah. After you, yeah, certainly. Yeah. I think as sort of Cal described, I do think we've got the format that works away from home, and I don't see us changing it. It has served us against both good and what you may describe as lower half teams in the Premier League. We get set, we absorb, and we work on the break. And I think, depending on the team selection, as we've just told, if Calvert-Lewin's playing, it goes up, the others feed off him, and we try and get him behind that way. So I generally think, while it will be cagey, I think there's going to be goals in the game. There's no doubt about it. I can... again, with my old man hat on it, and take you back to sort of the 90s with the endless streams of 0-0s over derbies and things. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think there'll be goals in it, but I think Everton will undoubtedly not change from what served them well, and the 5 wins on the bounce away from home.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Nick, but I think where we're going to win it, and we've touched upon it quite a bit, is, and everyone says it when you play Liverpool, stopping the fullbacks, stopping the delivery, an early ball from Trent, Robbo and whatnot, when they've got you off guard and it's a good delivery in. And of course, trying to stop that from 3, being nice and tight, obviously dropping your 2 deepest centre mids quite deep back onto the back 4's toes, sort of, to really stop the gap. And then I think it's going to be one for us on the counter-attack, but I would like to see us counter with 4 or 5 players and really go forward on the counter, as we say. I think it's the best opportunity. So that and set pieces, really, we're strong on them. I think that's where we think we can win the game.
And Dawn, just from you got anything to add there?
The first thing I'd like to say is listen to him talking about Liverpool players by the nicknames. He's like Dindo as well.
Apologies, Paul.
Yeah, I agree with what Callum and Nick have both said. The thing that I'd like to say is we've defended well in general, but obviously we've shipped quite a few goals, and recent form we've shipped quite a few. We did well against City, but 2 shots on the edge of the box, no one blocking the shots. Now, if we go back to Spurs, Kane got the ball there. Mina put in a great block, slid in and blocked it. And that's what I'd like to see, shutting the passing lanes down. But if there's any shot in and around the box, we've got to get a block on it. We've got to. Particularly with, Salah can score inside and outside the box. And Wijnaldum's decent as well. So I'd just like to see us defend more, pressing as a unit, backing each other up. And I'd like to see Richarlison pull his finger out of his backside.
I don't get a good game.
PG, Dawn, thank you very much. Not like Callum's potty mouth. So in terms of Liverpool, then Dan and Kieran, we'll start with you, Kieran. What are Liverpool's keys to winning this game?
I think for us, I mean, I alluded to our home struggles before. It's not just no win in 5; it's 2 home goals in 5 games. So hopefully, I'd like to see us just come out the traps from the start and try and get an early goal. Because I think for me, the longer this goes 0-0 or 0-1, if that's the case, and I think the more we struggle, the more we get behind the game. Because it just seems to me, when we can see goals at the minute, our heads just drop. So for me, I hope we come out the traps. I hope we try and attack them and go for the kill like the early Klopp days. Whether we do that or not, I don't know. Obviously, we speak about the fatigue in the team, which I think is a key factor in us not doing well. But yeah, I just hope that we come out like I say, come out the traps and attack it. Otherwise, I think if we don't get the early goal, it becomes cagey. And then I think back to the Brighton, the Burnley, the West Brom home games where, we're going through that second half, the team looks like it's spent. So I'm just, praying for an early goal.
Just before I come to you, Dan, we've just had a comment from a good friend, Steve Lamb, who says, if Everton give us the same space in midfield they gave to City last night, Bobby will flourish. Nick, Dawn, Callum, anyone, do you agree with that?
I think if you give anyone who's got a decent team space in midfield, then whoever will flourish. I think in some games when Calvert-Lewin isn't there, particularly, he presses well from the front and he sort of blocks the centre-halves coming into that midfield space, because we do have a low block and we do sit off quite a bit. With Richarlison there, I didn't think he worked hard enough at doing that, so he did have more space than Calvert-Lewin on the pitch. I'm not sure what you two think.
Yeah, I think he's got a good point there. I think we dealt with it first half quite well. Jesus was dropping in and Keane was coming in there with him. We were sort of restricting the space, but second half, when we had tired legs in midfield, I can definitely see his point. Sigurdsson was a little bit lazy for the third goal, just let Silva run off. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's all well and good saying that, and if we give him that space, but I think City did move the ball, and the movement was good to create that space, so Liverpool would have to play fairly similar and play well to be able to create that space. So, if some buts in it.
It is indeed. Right, Dan, I'll come back to you then, mate, in terms of keys to victory for Liverpool. What are we looking at?
Yeah, similar to what Kieran touched upon, really. I'd like to see us go for it. I'd like to see us really attack from the off. Although it could be a cage game because both sides are struggling a little bit for confidence. I like to think what happened in midweek gave us that confidence. And let's be honest, the front three haven't clicked as a collective for a long time now, a really long time. So we're kind of waiting for that to happen, and there's not many better times for it to happen than this. Salah's massive, Salah's massive, getting in behind whoever the centre-halves are. Godfrey, if it's him, he's quite inexperienced. If it's Holgate, I'd be rubbing my hands together, to be honest with you. I don't think he's great. But yeah, Salah and Mane's been really poor for a while, so if we can get control of the midfield, getting behind their back four, especially Dina and whoever's on the left-hand side, I think we'll be okay. And I think there's goals to be had there against Everton, to be honest with you. Even though they have been relatively solid, of late that's dipped. So, but I have said for a while, since all the defensive problems started happening in Liverpool, I would have liked to have seen us revert to Klopp's early tenure a little bit early in terms of attacking teams and really going for it. We went away from that, which won us the Premier League and the Champions League eventually. But with all these defensive problems, we can't defend great. We can't defend like we used to. So we may as well attack teams.
For me, the one thing I noticed more than anything about Leipzig and beating Leipzig was Liverpool were a lot more direct. There was none of this. What's been a kind of Achilles heel against Burnley, against Brighton, is just really slow, lethargic possession. Not really doing much with it, just allowing teams to put 2 banks of 4, sometimes 2 banks of 5, depending on who you're playing against, and just knocking it from side to side. Just completely hopeless, aimless, pointless. Against Leipzig, we were getting the ball and we were getting it forward, just getting it forward as quick as we could. And I think we've got to try and do that against Everton because we're our own worst enemy when we allow teams to just sit in and just frustrate us. And we always go really slow and make it dead easy for the opposition. And Everton will be praying for that on Saturday.
Yeah. They'll win most headers, won't they? They'll win most headers all night. That won't work. So
you want to get it in the spaces in behind. That's where we want to be getting it forward. Go on, Nick.
I was only going to ask Dave, but you've been a very accommodating host so far. So let you take your cap off.
It's a shared arrangement, this, mate. We're not hosting you. We're all in this together.
Where do you think it's going to be won then?
Honestly, I think if Calvert-Lewin plays, that's going to be a big decisive factor. Because I think we'll struggle to cope with him aerially. I've got to be honest, when Calvert-Lewin was first coming on the scene and things like that, I never really rated him. And this season, he's proved me wrong quite easily because he's fantastic. He's a handful and he causes so many problems. He can do pretty much all of it. So I think if he plays, I mean, I was saying, but I don't know what I said before we started or on the podcast, that I thought he'd play on Trent and try and get the ball long to him. But, you've made a good point that, we've got hardly anyone at centre-back. We're playing a centre midfielder and a centre-half who's just signed at centre-half. So he could pick on them potentially. And as I say, I think as long as Liverpool can be more direct, get Salah and Mane in behind and avoid, I guess I say, this so frustrating watching us just play side to side and almost get sucked into how the opposition want us to play. I think if you can avoid that, they're the two massive things for me.
Yeah. What do you guys view on Thiago then? Because, I mean, when the signing was made, I thought, wow, that is a really good coup. On paper, it looked everything that Liverpool needed. Looking at some of the social media, and okay, you can take that with a pinch of salt. There's some Liverpool fans are a little disenchanted and don't see where he fits into the structure. What's your views?
I think everything you said in terms of being a great sign will ring true eventually. I think we've seen in his very early appearances against Everton in the derby, if he got man of the match on the day, and against Chelsea was fantastic second half. He had the midfield alongside him that he was brought in to play with. Since then, that midfield has played centre half, and it sounds too accommodating in terms of he's a world class player, he should be able to play with anyone, but he shouldn't be doing defensive work in my opinion. He's not the best tackler I've ever seen, far from it. If he had Henderson and Fabinho alongside him doing the dirty work, he would just flourish and just play unbelievable passing football. That is what he really is good at. So I think it's too early to judge him based on this season entirely. It's been such a mess from a Liverpool point of view. He gets a complete free pass from me. I'd still like to see him influence games more, and I don't think he's been fantastic when he's played. But I do think there's reasons behind that, like I touched upon.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, I think he's... Go on, Kieran.
I was going to say, I just completely back what Dan said up there. Yeah, it's just obviously the two midfielders, Henderson and Fabinho, going to centre-back. It's not what he's brought in to do. But again, as Dan said, there's still room for improvement there. I think me nap for this weekend will definitely be Thiago to be booked. Because, like I said on our podcast on Monday, the lad just can't tackle. It's every week, especially the Leicester game. The equalising goal, he doesn't need to throw in a challenge like that. So, yeah.
It only took him a minute against Leipzig to commit a foul and to get booked. I think he's quite suspect defensively, if I'm honest, and obviously that's because we're missing Fabinho in there. But especially against Manchester United when it was 0-0, he was just played around like he wasn't even there at times. They were just so quick in the ball and just knocking it round him, and it's almost like he doesn't fully understand the system yet. He's trying to press and then he's going, I shouldn't have pressed him. He's just getting played around. But, he's a luxury player, isn't he? And at the moment, when you're not playing well, can you afford to have a luxury player in your squad? Potentially not. But then when you've got the injury list of Liverpool you've got no choice whatsoever. So,
no.
That's me. It's kind of like a sort of James Rodriguez situation in a way where you'd almost think you've got to play him every week. He's fantastic. He's world renowned in the football and realms. But then you look and you go, actually, should we be playing him? There's an argument that he slows things down. I don't know whether James gets that argument that he slows things down, Thiago, and I don't know whether he does. He still plays quite a lot of forward passes for me, but yeah, it's a very similar situation. It'll be interesting to see whether them two play on Saturday. Let's move on to predictions. This is going to be interesting. We're going to have to go for the scoreline. Dawn, you're shaking your head already, so I'm going to pick on you straight away. Give me a prediction. What am I putting my money on this weekend?
Whatever I say doesn't come true. So If I say Liverpool win, hopefully it's the opposite.
Reverse psychology, Dawn.
I like it.
I haven't been right once yet. I think I'm going to go for a draw.
I'm going to need you to be a bit more specific than that.
Not a ball draw. I think like a 2-2.
Okay, 2-2. Callum?
Yeah, as much as we spoke about being optimistic and we pick points where we think we can win, I just can't see it. It's just the way it is when we play Liverpool. So I'll go with Dawn. I can't put us on to lose, so I think it'll be 1-1.
Okay, Nick?
No, going to sound a little predictable now in light of the others' comments, but I think, as I said when we were assessing the game, I do think there'll be goals in it. And all week I've sort of had 2-2 in my mind. I think there will be goals. I think they'll probably, do you know what, we were laughing before around VAR and a couple of other bits. I do think there'll be something sort of confrontational in it as well. There always is with these kind of games. So I think the 2-2 could be somebody getting a last minute or a dodgy penalty or something. And it just has it has a little bit of a twist written all over it, but I think it's very evenly balanced. So yeah, I think 2-2.
2-2. Kieran?
100% Thiago to be booked. That's going on.
That's my money's on that.
I think I fancy as well. Just my prediction record's just shocking as well. So I don't see many. A 1-0 or a 2-1 I'd go for to Liverpool, but I think it'd be a tight game.
I'd also add to the Thiago thing that stick Alan and Fabinho on to get booked. That won me some money in the last derby. Alan and Fabinho yellow card. It's just guaranteed in every derby. Dan?
It's so difficult for so many reasons, but yeah, I'm going to back us. I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool.
Okay. I'm ever the pessimist, and I think it's just going to be a ball draw, 0-0. Every time we talk about a derby that's going to be good, it always ends up fizzling out into absolutely nothing. And you think, what have I just watched? I have just wasted an hour and a half of my life. So yeah, I'm going to go for 0-0. Steve Lamb's just stuck another comment saying, if Calvert-Lewin plays, I think unfortunately 2-0, if not 2-1 Liverpool. I have to agree. If Calvert-Lewin plays, that's massive. That is absolutely massive for Everton.
It's not peak Messi.
He's
not peak Messi. That's some shift in scoreline.
In terms of how Everton play and the quality that he's got, I mean, he's fantastic for Everton. He really is. He's proved me completely wrong, and he will be a nightmare. I mean, he's been a nightmare when we've got a full strength back four. Never mind, square. What's the saying? Square pegs and round holes, or something like that. Yeah. That's what we've got at the minute. Yeah. So just before we finish, seeing as we've got everyone together, and it's been very lovely and very nice. And I want to stoke the flames a little bit now and see. It's quite even in the table. It's quite close. Both teams have got an outside chance of getting the top four still, which, if I'm honest, I don't think either of us will. But who will finish higher in the table come May or whenever this season decides it wants to end? Who's going to finish above one another? Anyone?
Liverpool finish higher.
Why?
They'll finish higher because since Ancelotti's been there, he's helped us shift our mentality a little bit in terms of resilience, and you saw that against Spurs, the way we kept going on against Man United. The thing that we do lack is we don't turn up with a winning mentality, whereas you look at Liverpool's squads, they've got quite a few leaders who, lead like Henderson does or lead by example, and a lot of them have a winning mentality, and we don't have that yet. So I know it's not been great for Liverpool so far this season, but when we have opportunities to go ahead, we don't have the battle. We don't have that winning mentality, and I think, eventually things will get better for them, and we'll probably still be up and down. So I think they'll finish higher.
Okay. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it feels like I've been saying this for months, to be honest, but at some point our injuries have got to cease. And I think that would be crucial. I think, we're looking at getting Jota back, Keita back potentially in the next couple of weeks. And I just think that would be the difference. I think if we can have a run of 5 or 6 games without picking up injuries, we'll win. we'll win enough football matches between now and the end of the season, and we'll finish higher than Everton. And I do think we'll sneak in the top 4. I do, because I just think at some point it'll click and we'll stop getting injuries and we'll be fine.
Okay, Callum?
Yeah, I think you should be a little bit dramatic. I agree with Dan. I think you will get top 4 eventually. And on that basis, I think, unfortunately, I mean, we're all looking forward to it as Everton fans recently, and we felt like we had a chance at the top 4, but recent results against Fulham, Newcastle, I think that's just stunted us a little bit to finish there and to finish over you guys. I think, unfortunately, we have improved this season, which is really good to see, but, you know, you've still got a lot of quality, and I think eventually you'll pick up and you'll get on a decent run again. So I think Liverpool will finish over Everton, but I mean, we weren't expected to finish over Liverpool this year, so let's not compare ourselves yet.
Yeah, no, you're right there, mate. You know, there's been a lot of improvement under Ancelotti, certainly. And, you know, I think I've heard you speak about this a few times on the podcast, that the fact that you're coming into February with something to play for is an improvement. You know, for the last few years under Marco Silva, Ronald Koeman, going all that way back, there's been kind of nothing at this time of the year for Everton. So the fact that you're still in there with a shout and trying to get into Europe and top 4, really, you're still in the chase for it, absolutely. It's a massive improvement in terms of that. So a long way to go. The only reason, by the way, I don't think we'll finish in the top 4 is purely because of Chelsea. I think the new manager bounce and he'll have a load of confidence, and he looks like the type to wrap his arm around the players and just get them really up for it. I think they'll just run away with the top 4 now for me, but I hope I'm wrong. Well, yeah, I think Leicester will be fine, if I'm honest. I think Leicester will be all right. I think that, you know, they're 6 points clear of us now. I don't know what to clear out of Chelsea, but I think they've suffered that last year where they missed out, and I think they'll just be like, no, not again. We are not going to go through that again. I can't see that happening.
I just on that, I think Europa League could scupper them potentially, and potentially United. Possibly. Europa League could hurt them eventually. Playing Thursdays in wherever they go is not easy sometimes. Yeah, and that could hurt, like it did last year in many ways with Leicester. It really hurt them.
As I say, I hope I'm wrong. I do hope I'm wrong, but I just feel like they'll be all right. And I think Chelsea will just start to put some runs together. But anyway, back to the derby, or who's going to finish above each other. Kieran, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd have to echo what everyone said so far, really. I think Liverpool will finish higher of the 2. I mean, I think that everyone would have expected the gap between the 2 teams at this stage to be 3 points, and Everton have got a game in hand as well. So I don't think anyone expected that, but I think at some point, you know, we are due to go on a little run. We go on these runs of winning consecutive games. So as Dan said, you know, when the injuries start, you know, when the players start to come back, I do see us going on like a run of 5, 6, 7 straight wins. And if we get one of them, I think we've got every chance of getting in the top 4. I mean, this is just what I think West Ham will probably just fall away. I mean, they've impressed me this season. But, you know, to be honest, I know they're only 6 points behind them, but I'd still target Leicester and Man United. I'd still fancy us. We can get as high as second here, personally. But, yeah, I would probably say that Liverpool will probably finish higher than Everton.
Okay, Nick, are you going to break this run and this streak, or
go on, Nick?
No, I can't. I agree with everybody else, and I think it's been sort of quite a conciliatory understanding. I agree with Callum. The start of the season, you know, Ancelotti was beginning to build a team. He's bought some of the players he wants in. He's not got all the players he wants. It was always work in progress for us. So, you know, you just mentioned it before, Dave. I think, you know, you go, well, here we are into February. We can look at it and we can make the jokes. We've got a game in hand. We can go over Liverpool, and it's nice to be close enough to have that bit of banter. But, you know, let's be realistic. At this point, would we have been happy with it at the start of the year? Yeah, we probably would be, to be where we are and what we're fighting for. I think Liverpool have a number of good players that are and have been champions. That winning mentality is always there, and I agree with you, the rest of you, that I think Liverpool will get top 4. I think, you know, that you'll get the runs back. That strike force will always get goals. You firm up your defence. Yeah, Leicester will. I think they're still a bit of a bottling side. Their scores have been unpredictable. I think West Ham are massively overachieving. I wouldn't be surprised to see them fall off quite quickly. Man United, brittle, not as good as people are making them out. You know, they can have one good game, but they can lose 3 or 4. And so I do think Liverpool will be that, I don't think you'll catch City now, but I think you'll be there about in the top 4. And that's probably about right for this season. And if we get Europa League, I'll be happy with that, because then, we give you the scare. We're 2 or 3 years ago, the derbies, we were laughing. We came and scratched a 0-0. It was the way that Everton were happy with that. I think we can compete in the derby now, whether we win it or not. We've all talked about it. But I think overall, Everton are going in the right direction, but we're not quite at Liverpool's level yet, and I'm not uncomfortable with that.
No, as I say, I think you've made massive improvements, and I think the big thing about Everton for me is the depth. Once you start to lose players like Calvert-Lewin and Haaland, there's quite a significant drop-off in quality. And to be fair, do you know what? When Jurgen Klopp took over, that was a big issue for Liverpool. You were bringing in just crabs, basically, to play in the first team who just weren't good enough. So I think as long as now Everton just keep on that path, I think you'll be all right. If you'd have asked me a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, whether you were going to finish above us, I would have said yeah. But now I don't see it. I don't see it now, if I'm honest. And as I say, I think it's because we spoke about this before we started. You seem to get close to something and then just you lose to Fulham. And then obviously City's a tough game. Whoever plays, I mean, they battered us. But little defeats like that against Fulham, you can't afford. Definitely on the right track. Dan, did you have something to say there, mate?
It was just you touching upon Klopp and the drop off in depth in terms of quality. In many ways, that's the case now, isn't it?
It is.
With us, you've seen these injuries. It's the case for everyone apart from City. City have built this massive squad that it doesn't really matter that they get injuries. You look at their bench last night; that's a joke. Only City can do that. Liverpool haven't got that. No team's got that.
No team's got that sort of money, have they?
No, exactly.
Go on, Dawn, you're going to say something there?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about what the Reds think about. I know things haven't been going great, and you've had loads of injuries, and obviously you've had performances that have been poor individually and as a team. But on occasion, Klopp has hung his players out to dry. I mean, the game where Alexander-Arnold passed the ball, it turns over possession 38 times. I mean, that is shocking. That is a shocking number. But he's still a young man sort of thing at the moment. And the other one is Alisson. Alisson saved you so many times from losing games, and he's been the difference in wins. But yet, Klopp hung him out to dry a couple of times for bad mistakes. I just wondered what you thought about it. Ancelotti does the opposite to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, right? I think it's come to a point where Liverpool are on such a bad run that Klopp's gone, well, this isn't working for me. Because there's times when, there was quite early on in this run where he said, I take the blame. It's all my fault. And if it goes well, it's the players. But then it's got to a point where he's sort of thinking something needs to change. So if that means coming out and having a go at Alisson or coming out and having a go at Trent, I think that's the right thing to do at that stage. If I don't know, if you just putting their arms on and they get into this sort of security where they think, oh, well, I can't do nothing wrong for this manager, so it's all right. So I don't see an issue with that. I don't know about you, Dan.
Same thing, really. I don't necessarily remember him hanging anyone out to dry, if I'm perfectly honest. He probably mentioned the things in press conferences because he was asked about them, I'd say. But he's been accused of being prickly quite a lot, hasn't he, recently? But I think that was all put to bed quite quickly when we realised what's been going on behind the scenes in his life. I think the results compounded what was going on, and I think he has changed his demeanour of late. But like I said, I don't think that was necessarily football related, to be honest. And that might have sparked the comments that we're talking about here. He's not the sort of person to do it at all. He'll put his arm around everyone. We've seen that a million times before. But like you said, if it's the right thing to do, then you've got to back him. But I'm not sure that was what he was into, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not much more to add from that myself. I think, Dan and David covered it really. I mean, not really much more to add there.
Okay. Was this the question you were holding on to before it, Dawn, and waiting to throw at us?
I have a few questions, but yeah.
Oh, okay, go on then, fire away.
Just on that one, it just sort of, when you've heard him talking about not the press conferences, the post-match, when again things are raw and stuff like that. I mean, he did go over the top a bit for Alexander-Arnold and for Alisson, even the misunderstanding with Kabak and him against Leicester. I didn't hear anyone shout. I didn't hear anyone shout, which is pointing the finger at Alisson. Whereas I'd sort of go, he's a young lad, that defender. And if he's ever seen Liverpool play before, he knows that Alisson plays like a sweeper. He knows that Alisson can come out and try and head the ball or whatever he's going to do. So I just think at times, and it probably is compounded by what happened in his personal life, because that's horrific and it affects everything else. But I just wondered what you thought.
I said to my girlfriend, I said, why couldn't he have done the funeral when he was in Germany on Wednesday? Well, I don't know when the funeral was. If it was before then fair enough. Was it just because they're allowed in Germany? Excuse me, because they've all been COVID tested and they're allowed to the ground and then home. All right, fair enough. But you think, come on, it's one person, let him go to the funeral. You know what I mean?
They played in Budapest.
It was Hungary, wasn't it?
Even the team weren't allowed to go to Germany. Yeah, it's bad, mate.
How did it look like Leipzig Stadium?
Yeah, well, they all look the same, don't they? All these new stadiums look the same.
They decorated it,
yeah. Even Liverpool weren't allowed to travel there. And apparently,
Leipzig Stadium looks like, so
yeah. For the next leg, they can't even come here because then they won't be allowed to go back. Stuff like that. Yeah, Germany have got some serious restrictions. Like, it must have been awful for them, but I also don't believe it when he says like, "Oh, I'm a football manager. I can turn it on and turn it off." You can't turn things like that off.
Not normal. That wouldn't be normal. That
no way, not a chance.
He's a human being, and you can see it. I think everyone feels for him. It's as simple as that. It's there for the grace of God. Anyone gets in that position, and if he has been particularly fit, used to him. And
Dawn's right. He has changed his demeanour. I think we all noticed that without knowing what had gone on. And then even I noticed that, and I thought something's not right here. He looked really down, and he was not calling people out, but maybe more than you normally would. And you thought, hang on. And then all of a sudden, we discovered why, and I took a complete step back from the whole thing. Well, it's completely. And with the Alisson and Kabak incident in particular, if he has kind of called Alisson out, then I massively condone that, because Kabak on debut, only 20 years old, if he comes out and blames him, then what's that going to do to the kid? You know what I mean? He's gone, and he's straight away. So Alisson, experienced international, been around, has been brilliant for us, like you touched upon. He's the one to say you weren't good enough there, you know.
Yeah,
and allegedly one of Klopp's favourite players, according to Andy Robertson, him and Joel Matip, are his two favourites, allegedly. I wanted to ask you, Blues, about something, because I haven't spoke to you for a while. The Carlo Ancelotti celebration, or not even a celebration, where he just blows into his coffee. What did you make of that? Because I found it brilliant, I'll be honest.
It just sums the guy up to some degree. You know, he's if you've seen his book or read his book, he talks about his quiet leadership style and his lack of emotion to some degree, and it just completely summed the guy up. Everyone else is, Ferguson's doing handstands behind him, and he takes that stance, and as fans, it was good to watch, but I've read somewhere since that he was containing himself because he thought it was going to be given offside. So he was trying to find a way of containing himself. But, I mean, it's become iconic. Everyone that does a dodgy T-shirt got a version of it on for sale now.
Everywhere is in some of the greatest photos ever,
I tell you what's funnier than that was at the United game where we scored the equaliser and David, his son, come over and jumped on him. And then Ferguson's running towards him, and Carlo's like that, no. And then Ferguson jumps on him. It's really funny to watch.
It's a good read, that book, to be fair, the Quiet Leadership book. It is a really good read, and he's quite complimentary about Jurgen Klopp in there as well. Yes. I think Klopp had just took the Liverpool job at that point, and there was rumours of Ancelotti, and he said Liverpool, something along the lines of Liverpool made the right decision, he'll succeed there. I was a bit gutted when he took the Everton job, to be honest, because I do like Ancelotti. You've kind of got to not like him as much anymore because he's the Everton boss, but I do still like him. Happy to admit that.
Can I ask you, fans, because we spoke about it on our podcast, and me and my dad was saying sort of like the last couple of weeks, like, the United game with the last minute goal with Calvert-Lewin and VAR, and then same with Bernard, we haven't been able to celebrate it as what we normally would. We'll stand up and we'll give it a little yes, but then you stood there with your hands on your head like that. And it's a little bit of a moan for me. It's crap. How can I be going mad when we've scored last minute against United, or we've gone 5-4 up against Tottenham in the cup? I'm like subdued, and for me, don't know what you Reds think about it. I hate it. I really, that's what gets me with VAR, just ruining the experience.
You know, you're absolutely right, Callum. Absolutely right. My first experience of VAR live was in Porto. It was the away leg, and I think Mane might have scored. And obviously, goal goes in, you celebrate, you made up, and then everyone's like, "What's going on?" And it comes on the board, VAR. And at that moment, I was just like, "I hate this.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate this. Like, you've just celebrated like mad, and it potentially gets taken away from you. And now we're getting to a point where it's that almost normal that we won't celebrate in case we think, oh, might be offside, or yeah, I'm totally with you on that, mate. It's horrendous.
I echo.
Yeah.
Sorry, I echo all that. It's wrong. It's just wrong completely. I can't stand it.
Yeah. Go on, Dawn. Oh, Nick, go on.
I just celebrate and worry about it later.
Great attitude to have, to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I just can't switch off, mate, and that's just me personally. It's just in my head straight away.
I'm with you, mate. Yeah. Whatever you see now, whether you watch it, obviously now we're all watching it on the telly, but you see it and you sort of go, oh, and I think even worse is when your team concede a goal and you go, VAR will sort that out, that's offside, and then it gets taken to VAR and it's like, oh, it's onside, it's fine. And that's just so frustrating because you see yourself, you see your team score so many goals and get ruled out, to then see one ruled as onside when you think, oh, that's off. Oh, frustrating.
I agree with you. I think it's not only what its effect on fans, which is, really half the reason. I mean, I've said this 100 times, and I don't want to sound boring, but as part of the Everton Fans Forum, we wrote to the referee's secretary and to the FA with big long letter that sort of wasn't moaning as in Everton about their decisions. It's ruining football as a fan experience. And Mike Riley just dismissed it as, oh no, you are just having a moan. And it's not, because it's not, like you say, even taking it away from the fans. It's the complete inability of whoever's at Stockley Park getting things right. Because as you're all saying, that they're not even getting them right. Consistency is ridiculous. And that works. You go back to the last derby, okay, my God, I was pleased. But if that was us getting that last minute goal disallowed, Henderson's goal, I couldn't see where he was off, even personally. And they're just getting replicated. And then there's others that you think, well, that is off. And they're letting it go.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Go on, Dan.
Sorry, it'll get everyone as well, won't it? You're right to mention them on the derby. And for you boys there, it's great because it's been disallowed. Even the Pickford one early, you've got away with it. But then next season, or even Saturday, it's going to come back and get you. So it's no good for anyone in the long run, is it?
No.
Yeah. I think I was going to say, the thing is, though, with VAR, it's going to stay. They're not going to just take it away now. No. So it's here to stay forever. So it needs major improvements. I think we've touched on our podcast. For me, I just want to see more transparency. Like I compare it to other sports where you can actually hear the referees talking with each other. There's no reason why you can't listen into those conversations, because then maybe you could listen to the reasons why they're giving the decisions. That's the one thing we don't get. Why? So that's, for me, it's here to stay. I want to see major improvements from VAR.
I completely agree. I mean, you've only got to look at cricket and the way that they utilise it when they go for a decision in cricket. You can hear the adjudicator going, right, show me side on, show me this, that's not clip the bat. It's sort of, they're talking you through, and at least you're right, whether they go, well, is half his toenail is over the line or something, as much as it'll pain you in, at least you do get some idea. You're right, but they're making bad decisions and not having to justify it.
Yeah.
I think the whole point of it was bringing it in to get rid of the human error, and we've got more human error than ever before.
Twice as much.
So.
What is the next? The refs on the pitch aren't good enough. The VAR is not good enough. What is it? I mean, should we all apply for a job, because there's loads of official jobs going clearly?
That is the thing, that they are really bad, our officials. You look at some of the Champions League football this week, I thought the refs were decent in midweek. And I've touched on this before in our part, like England, Britain had no refs at the last World Cup and everyone moaned. You can see why. They're horrendous. They're I think everyone says the best one's Michael Oliver, and he's, let's be honest with you, he did the derby, didn't he? He's not great himself, they're so poor. They really are. And that is the problem, because VAR has just doubled the amount of refs we've got watching the game, and it's the same people making the same mistakes. So it's bad.
You might as well get rid of the person on the pitch and just leave it all to VAR.
Yeah, especially the linesman.
Yeah,
don't need them.
Pointless.
Yeah,
isn't it? I think that's the problem with Mike Riley and his little team of officials. They're protecting them left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
slightly going off on tangents, but you look Stuart Atwell's back getting games. Now, that's you couldn't even see a ball hit the goal and extension, and he give a goal. Now, frankly, he should never even do a Sunday League game.
No,
but
I'm with you on that.
The list because he's in his little clique, and that's these people all the more. You're spot on. If the refs were any good, you could live with it, but they're not.
He shouldn't be anywhere near the game of football.
We only talk about the big decisions because they're the one that impact games, but you watch just generally a match play out, the amount of decisions they get wrong, even little free kicks during the game that do affect the game in terms of the flow of the game. And it's just, they get 80% decisions wrong, I'm sure of it. And it's so painful to watch.
Yeah. Well, it has an impact as well, doesn't it? Because if there's a decision where they give a free kick and they don't book a player, and in the rule of the game, it's a yellow card, and then that wrong gets a yellow card, you're like, well, they shouldn't be
right,
yeah. I have to say, Dawn, that was my big hope with not having fans in. I think it's wrong on 99.9% of the level not having fans in, but I hope the lack of fans would make refs a bit more realistic in flashing yellow cards for your first tackle of the game. I thought they mightn't have any pressure from fans baying for a card, and you might see the ability to play football and throw the odd one or two poor tackles in. Third one, there's your card. But it hasn't changed, has it? So they're clearly in a direction that says, one foul, one yellow card.
Yeah, it's even the diving, isn't it? It's like Dele Alli got booked against us for diving, and you go like, that's nice to see. Maddison he was on a yellow a few seasons ago, and he got a second yellow for diving and went off as a red. And you don't see that enough because these decisions, like you say, you get a bad decision of a free kick that was a dive and there's no contact, and then there's a goal that goes in, and it's like, but it was a bad decision to start with.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap up, I just want to ask you a quick question each. Nick, you've just mentioned that obviously no fans still in stadiums, and obviously we're all disappointed about that we can't go to the match. But they've announced this week that all games will continue to be showed live on the telly until the government guidance begins. So I think if we start top left with Callum, we'll go Callum, Kieran, Dawn, Dan, Nick. Just give me your thoughts on what you think that means for you as you're going to see all the games live on the telly.
Well, yeah, it's so really, isn't it? I mean, you're going to see all the games live if you're paying for Sky Sports and BT. So I don't really think it's accessible for every Premier League fan out there. So yeah, it's all well and good saying that, but I mean, the way it is at the minute with Sky and BT, not everyone's going to see it. I mean, there's been a few games on BBC, so hopefully they can keep up with that. I mean, I personally got Sky and BT, but you're still not going to see every game if you're just the normal person.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a good point. I think more games should be on the BBC for like the free to air, because every team should, the fans are still not seeing every game. I mean, at least they've scrapped the pay-per-view. That was just absolutely dreadful. So at least they're not doing that. But yeah, you start these days. You've got to have a Sky account, BT account, Amazon Prime account as well. You have it on Amazon last night. So yeah, it's just good that they're keeping all the games on there, but there's still for me more work to be done.
Yeah, I agree with both. I mean, it's accessible to some people, so it's good that if you've got access to those different channels that you watch the game. It's better than not watching the game. But for people that don't have the money, they can't see it unless it's on BBC or whatever. And I think just bringing the two subjects together, that like VAR for me, I think is creating. It's more suited to people watching the game at home than watching in a stadium. And I think there's loads that you miss when you watch the game at home when you're not there. So the sooner they can bring it back, the better.
Yeah, echo all the thoughts, really. I think right at the start of the first lockdown, Sky Sports basically scrapped the monthly fee for the sport. And I think not a lot has changed in terms of where the world is since then. So they should really look to do that again. In terms of BBC, tends to get the run to the litter in terms of the matches. So maybe we should look at that as well. Like if the Derby was on BBC this weekend, it'd be through the roof, wouldn't it, the figures? So definitely more work to be done. Great that they've got them all on telly. It means that I probably won't be leaving the couch for another few months, but what can you do? But yeah, good in some ways, but we all can't wait to get back, can we? Let's be honest.
Yeah, completely echo what everyone else is saying. I mean, as somebody who was lucky enough to do one of the games when fans were allowed back in, and just the impact of 2,000 fans, it sort of gave you the same feeling. So, that has to be the ultimate aim. Can go with Callum, really. I think it's a little bit of a sort of, the Premier League is such kind of put a mist on to say they're available for free. They're not. They're available if you've got a Sky account, a BT account, and an Amazon Prime account. If you haven't, then they're not free and they're not accessible. So for me, more games should be put on BBC, ITV, use some of those other spare channels, BBC 2, 3 and 4, and make it genuinely free for people, because there's a lot of people out of work, furloughed, can't afford subscriptions, and football is probably the one bit of enjoyment that's available to them. So I still think the Premier League are creating a smokescreen, as they continue to do, because, I mean, certainly, again, without going into it, conversations between us as a Everton Fans Forum and the chief exec, she was asking for feedback, and we sort of said, well, as fans, tell the Premier League not to stop pulling the wool over our eyes. They were going about, when they were trying to justify the 15 quid, well, it's our running costs. And you think, football fans aren't fools. We all know you're beaming it to every other country, every other part of the world at exactly the same time. So there is no running costs in showing it on English TV or whatever. So, yeah, it's a small step that they removed the £15 fees, but it's nowhere near accessible for me at a time when people should have something to keep them going during a difficult lockdown situation.
Nothing left for me to say there. You've covered all bases. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll wrap up there, because we've been talking for over an hour and that has flew by. I've enjoyed every minute of it, so I do appreciate your time. As ever, if you want to catch the Shankly Gates podcast or the Gwladys Beat podcast, I did get that right, didn't I? Gwladys Beat, we've just changed the name. I thought I got that wrong for a minute there. Do stay tuned to the Facebook page, and you'll see clips of it all through the week on Liverpool TV. So, Everton lot, thank you very much for your time. I hope you're not smiling like that on Saturday night. We'll see. And Dan Kieran, I'll catch you both soon. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
Nice one.